It numbs you, a nightmare, a horrible disease. These are just a few of the ways people have described mental illness in their lives. Whether it's you, your child, or a friend, mental illness impacts all of us in the same ways, and that's why the Mindspace podcast is committed to uncovering mental illness and the impact it has.
Welcome to the Mindspace podcast. Your host, Fahad bin Mohammed. And with me here today, I have the beautiful Micheline Mutuzo. And we're going to be talking about teenage pregnancy, its repercussions, and a host of other things. So, Micheline, please introduce yourself to the members here with us today.
I'm Micheline Mutuzo. Thanks for having me today. I'm 25. I have a beautiful 3-year-old daughter. I have a cleaning company, so Simula Mayumba. And what else am I saying? That's basically it, I think.
She's a girl with a dream.
Yeah,
Girl with a
that's...
dream. And she's also a part-time model. Freelance.
Yeah, ish.
We'll get into that later.
Okay.
So, let's get straight into it. Teenage pregnancy. You had your child early on, 19 to 20?
Yeah, I keep confusing the years somehow, but about that age, 19 to 20 or 20 to 21.
Okay, the scope counts because teenage pregnancy is more or less 13 to 19.
That's, around that
so
age.
Let's start from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
You were born into how many siblings do you have?
I have 2 brothers.
Yeah.
I'm a twin.
You're a twin?
Yeah, with a boy, Nakato, and that's it. We're 3 kids.
Yeah.
I don't have a sister, but I have sisters.
All right.
Just not one blood sister, but yeah.
Yeah, so starting out school, primary, you went to one school?
Yeah, nursery and primary school. I went to one nursery and primary in Fort Porto. It's called Banyatere. It's a very good school, by the way. It's a Catholic founded school, nuns and all. So, yeah, from nursery to P7.
So where did things go wrong? Because your secondary story is a bit on the other side.
Well, I don't know either. I think I don't know. First of all, I've always been a very outspoken kid, and I don't know, but it never goes well with older people. Like, they don't want to be questioned. They don't want to be argued with.
They're never wrong.
Yeah, they're never wrong. And growing up as too outspoken, I would argue a lot, and most times unnecessarily. But I always wanted to win, maybe. Or if I felt like something is right, you wouldn't out-argue me, and I would do it with anyone. It didn't matter your age, whether you were old. My teacher, I would want you to know that, you know what you're saying is wrong, or this is what I think. And half the time that landed me into trouble.
Half the time or most of the time? Because
most of the time.
6 years, 5 schools.
Yeah, most of the times that always landed me into trouble. And then I usually wanted to do things my way. If I think putting on a short skirt in school shouldn't be deemed wrong, I'll put on a short skirt. Or if I thought, it's too cold, I want to go for prep, so I'll just sleep in and not go, which was wrong, by the way. Now that I think about it, now that I've grown up, and sometimes I'm talking to my young brother. My young brother is now in Form 4, or some COVID. I don't even know the class he's in anymore, but when he's telling me the things that he's going through at school, I'm like, hold on, that's what's giving you headache. I realize what I used to do was so wrong, but then I was young, big-headed, and I always felt like
you knew it all.
I knew it all. So that landed me in a lot of trouble.
Basically, because a lot of trouble is basically an understatement. These are 6 years. These are 5 schools.
Yeah.
So basically, every year they wouldn't want to have you back.
No, you see, that's the thing. Sora, yeah. Let me not even try to explain it or make sense out of it. But basically, yeah, I remember, and usually it's not like you've done something huge at like, there are those people that will do like something drastic, one drastic thing, and the school is like, no, we can't have you anymore. For me, it was always tiny things like you refused to go for prep, or you just didn't go to class because you felt like you didn't need that subject, or because you're putting on a short skirt, or because you were talking to boys a lot, or like tiny crimes that keep building up, and then by the end of the year, your headmaster is like,
So
we
basically,
can't take
you
you
are
back.
gangster your whole
Not
education life.
gangster is too.
It's too, because that's gangster.
Gangster?
I
No,
mean, me
it's
as a
not.
boy, I wasn't the most straight. But I never got expelled.
Well, let me tell you something.
And here I am
By the way,
here.
let me tell you something funny. I think there was also a mixture of bad luck. Because
How so?
no, let me tell you.
Yeah.
You chop prep with someone, and then he'll be like, let me go and see what's happening in class. And then when he gets there, they roll call, and you're like, not there.
So
and
for you, but you never did learn a lesson? Because I mean, they teach you from the first
Let me
school,
tell you.
the second school,
Yeah.
then the third school, all the way to the fifth.
But
Well, you consider yourself an indisciplined child growing up?
yeah. As headache. Yeah, I was headache totally. As indisciplined then. But when I got to my last school, I told myself this was it. Like, I would behave myself. Like, I wouldn't do anything stupid. And let me tell you, like, I did. I went through it. Like, I'd never been caned. I was never called into like the disciplinary. Like, I told myself, you know what? This is it. Because my dad had told me, if they expel you again, you're going to sit at home for a year. You like, that will be your punishment. Because my dad doesn't cane, or he's not going to tell you lie down and they cane you. He just gives you punishment. And I told myself, no matter what, I'm going to be a straight kid. I'm not kidding. And I was. And to some extent, I'm always telling myself, had I not been like expelled from Lowell for me to go to Chadron, I wouldn't have passed. Because at Lowell, I went to Lowell, and there was this incredible freedom of do what you want. You would not go to class and no one would be like, why didn't you go to class? And then I had come from a school that was so strict, as from Chevambe, and they would roll call. There was morning prep, evening prep, like it was too much. Then I went to this school that was so chill. And I did chill. Like,
And they also allowed short skirts.
oh yeah.
So you felt at home?
I was like, I am home. But when they expelled me from Lowell and they went to Chadondo, I had this, I was like, you know what, I'm going to reform. No more Kavuyo. I'll sit and read. And let me tell you, I went to Chadondo and sat and read kids that know me from Lowell, kids that know me from Chadondo, know a whole different person. Someone who would read like trans night, someone who would discuss. And then people that know me from different schools know a different person, because there I was really different. Reading was by force.
Remember, was the school you loathed the most? The school you hate that you didn't even want to refer to as
that,
studied from there.
I don't like it. I think my first bout of depression started there for like absolutely no reason, but it was just not a hospitable environment where I would be like, oh, I went to this school and maybe I had a good time.
Bout of depression is what led to this depression? I mean, this is you in school. The rebel that you are. I didn't think rebels get depressed.
Me too. I thought I was gangster and I'm not supposed to go through those things. But let me tell you, I left.
The girls broke you.
Yeah, those girls like really broke me up. They were like, nah, madam, you're not gangster enough. But I left as in Nyakasura up to Form 4. So I went to Chebambe for my Form 5. And then I got there and kids just don't like you. And let me tell you, it's not like you want everyone to like you, but you don't want people to like hate on you either, of you just don't have peace in the school. Like, it's okay if you don't like me, I would totally understand that, but why would you not like me and then make the environment uncomfortable for me? You get? So that is what was in Shebambe, and like there's no reason. It's always Fort Portal is a very small place, by the way. Like, half the time the students will know each other somehow. Like, there are like 5 schools in Port Portal. Maybe now there are many, but then the place is so small. You'll find half the kids in this school know like the other kids in the other school, and that is what happened to me. As coming from this one school where everyone knew me somehow, and then I went to Chebambe where one of my childhood friends had been, like a few, not just one, and they used to talk about me a lot of, oh my God, we have this very beautiful friend called Michelle, she's my neighbor at home, oh my God, she's so pretty. And for girls, that is enough for them not to like you. And then I get to this school.
You were too paying for them?
No, I wasn't. My friends just over hyped me somehow. So I get to this school and kids just don't like me. Of like, why are you making this uncomfortable? And like, I had a few friends that I knew outside of school, and I just stayed with those. Like, I don't even think I made new friends there. I just stayed with those. It was just so uncomfortable. And then when I went to Lowell, I found this girl. Right now, she's like one of my best friends. Like, we're very, very close. And at first we didn't talk because, she also didn't like me from Chebambe. Yeah. And one day, randomly, I don't even remember what happened. I think we were washing or something, and somehow we started talking because, we both knew Toro. Like, we started having a conversation, and then we started talking, and she was like, why did I not like you? And I'm like, you tell me, why did you not like me? And then she's like, bakuwana nyo. And I'm like, hold on, that's the reason of.
So would you say you were bullied or harassed?
I don't want to say I was bullied. Harassed maybe a little. I just know it was so bad for me, like mentally.
You literally actually became depressed.
Yeah.
Is that one of the reasons, minus the expulsion that I think you got? Mm-hmm. Was it one of the reasons as to why you left?
No. It was. First of all, let me tell you something. African parents don't know depressed. Or you can't go home and you tell your dad, this school is depressing me or it's giving me anxiety. You can't do that. Like, you actually can't do that. That even when I got home, like when we got home, first time holidays, when I got home, I was so relieved, like, oh, thank God that time has ended. But then I couldn't tell my parents, like, I need to change school because, this environment, it's depressing me. You don't tell that to African parents. First of all, I grew up in an entirely African setting of, you can't tell your dad.
Is it a rigid setting? Would you call it a rigid setting?
Probably, yeah. It was somewhat rigid. But just know you can't tell your parent, I'm depressed and I want to change school. Do you know how much money you have to put into just changing school?
So how did you as a student, how did you cope with the depression? Did you actually know about depression then?
No, I didn't know what I was going through. I just know I hated the place. I hated myself. I was not happy, and I didn't know what I was going through. And that's like the worst bit about depression and anxiety. You don't know what's happening to you, so you don't know how to deal with it.
React.
Yeah, or so you just become maybe like aggressive, or you just become big. Yeah, you just become big. Like, you act out without knowing, like, maybe I'm acting out because of this. And even then, the people around you don't know what depression is, so they don't know how to help either. They'll just roll with it, of you wake up one morning. And I have like a few friends that absolutely took care of me. They didn't know what they were doing then. They thought maybe they were doing it out of friendship, so they would like really take care of me. I even call one of them my mom. She's called Ruth. She would like wash my clothes. I really became a baby to them, and that is one of the ways that I coped up a little bit. We knew each other out of school, at church, and home. We were neighbors. So that they would like take care of me. I would wake up and not want to do anything. You know, like that's the thing about you wake up and you don't want to do. You just want to sleep, and then they'll do that for me. Like they'll be like, "It's okay, you sleep," and they'll wash for me, bring me food. If I don't go to class that day, my friends will bring me notes. They would. For them, they didn't know what. They just felt, no, she's not okay. You leave her. Like, you leave her. And I would go through it. Like, that is how I basically went through it.
So fast forward. This is you finishing your high school. Mm-hmm. Now we're going for the war zone.
Yeah.
This was in VAC.
Which was
everything. The man, the young boy that confused you. Was he a young gentleman or a man?
He wasn't young. He was older than me, but not.
Was he a graduate?
Pardon?
Sugar daddy vibes.
No. He wasn't sugar daddy. Yeah, he had graduated and even working.
No, this was you, a 19-year-old.
Listen, no, he was, well, nekuza mangu. By the way, let me tell you, it's funny, but I have old friends of not old sugar mommy, sugar daddy vibes, but like older than me of 5,
old men
8.
Or old
Both. Yeah. Like I have very few friends that are my age mates, and those are friends that I just met like in school. But I've never made a friend that's my age mate of normally, like outside school. My age mate friends are always from school, classmates and stuff. So I have very old friends, so usually I pass off as old. So
this young gentleman.
Yes.
About 24, 25.
27.
27?
Yeah.
Okay, 27-year-old.
But I was like 20 or something.
What happened? You found your idol?
No, actually.
Tell us how you met this.
Normally at a photo shoot. We met normally at a photo shoot and we started talking, and it was a good.
How did you get into photography right after school?
Right, I went for Miss Tourism. And when I won, I was actually first runner-up in Toro region.
Photo?
Yeah, so that's how I joined photography and modeling. I'd always loved taking pictures and stuff, but I wasn't like into the whole professional photography bit. But when I won, we started doing these things where I would go to different tourist sites in Toro, like Maberga in Namiru, Mahoma Falls and and would take pictures and like post on Facebook for the whole tourism thing. And that's how I got into photography, and I loved it. Why are you smiling?
And you loved it, huh?
Yeah, I loved it.
So this is where
I came to no, actually, when I came, that was in my work. Yeah. So when I came to campus, and I used to act a little bit in my work. So when I came to campus, I met this friend of mine in school still, and a friend of his had written a book called The Cage about the war in northern Uganda, and she wanted it to be it's actually a play. So she wanted it acted at National Theatre. So my friend is like, my friend tells his friend called Rachel to how he has this friend that can act, and he had never seen me act, by the way. I had just told him that I can act, and he told the friend, like, I have my friend, she's a very good actress, you should try her out. So when I went to see the woman, she's like, yeah, we should do it, you'll have the lead role and all that. Now, for posters, for the marketing bits, we had to do a photo shoot for the posters for marketing and stuff, and that's how I met him.
He was not making a poster. He was a poster guy. Just like, yeah.
Sort of. He was a photographer, but that's how
he was a photographer. The model fell for the photographer. Is that typical?
Half the time, I think so.
Because they have some power. They command some power.
Do they? Maybe.
Okay, so tell us. You get into a relationship with this young gentleman?
Yeah, I do. He was a good person. He was a good person.
What went wrong?
People change, and I don't want to say just him. Probably both of us as 19, 20, something. I grew up. Dreams change. Likes change. Now you want something different, or you like something different now, or because we got into a relationship, and a short while later I was pregnant. And
how short is a short while later?
Like 9 months, maybe at most.
9 months.
Yeah, at most.
Then
I got pregnant, and then we started living together. Like, it was a series of too many things at the same time. Like, it wasn't overwhelming at the time, but when things keep piling up, they eventually overwhelm you. And when they overwhelm you, you don't know how you act, or things just change. You are 19, you're now 23, 20 something. You want something different. You realize there's something else you want to study. You realize your dreams are different and they don't align. These are things you didn't actually talk about with this person when you met. When you met, you were like on vibes and stuff and photography. And now you realize, like, hey, I'm 23. That's not very old, but that's a right age to start thinking, how do I want my life to be, or what do I want to achieve, or what do I want to do? And you realize these are things that are not aligning with this other person. And things just fail.
Was it rushed?
It definitely was.
Would you consider it a mistake?
Maybe. Not that. Even the pregnancy was, like, it's not something I sat down and I'm like, katinjagala yakana. No.
It was a mistake.
It was something that just landed on me. And I'm
people don't understand that concept when you say it just landed on me. Like, how do you just get
let
pregnant?
me tell you.
Because there's a process to pregnancy.
I know. Leave aside the whole having unprotected sex. People do have unprotected sex. For the 9 months, I can't tell you how many times I was having unprotected sex and I was getting away with it. You get my point. And let me tell you something. If you get away with it once or twice, you'll tell yourself, I can get away with it even a third time. You'll have a pregnancy scare once or twice, and you'll tell yourself, I am never having... You get... But no one should lie to you that when you're having unprotected sex, in your mind at the moment, you're thinking pregnancy.
You're just enjoying.
You're like, having fun. What? I got away with it
Sometime
the first
back,
4 times. I can get away with it the 5th time. And funny story, the 5th time is the time you won't actually get away with it. You get. And you know how they say a thief has 40 days. Unprotected sex too.
So, were you being reckless? You attributed to being reckless?
I was,
Because you kept on testing your luck?
I thought I had luck. I wasn't testing it.
The child was not a result of love or relationship?
No. It was both. Because I liked the guy. Loved.
Whatever the feelings were.
The time, They were there.
Still a mistake.
It was a mistake. Like, I was 20. No one should be having a kid.
This is you in first year now?
As in second year, law school. I was going to second year, something like that. And
so this is you. How long did you find out you're pregnant after?
I was like 2 weeks pregnant.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
That's like when...
Let me tell you, I had very tiny boobs at the time. And one morning I woke up and I had these huge boobs, and I'm like...
You're not impressed?
No. Not that they are bad boobs to have, but the circumstances that surrounded the big boobs were, and I'm like, hold on. That's when I'm like, hold on, I'm late by like a week. And I have this friend. And then I was feeling sickish. But at that time, it didn't register. I just thought, But the boobs, that's when I was like, sickish, huge boobs. I was like, I'm finished. I'm late by a week. So as late in the morning, I was talking to this friend of mine and telling him, I feel sick. And then he joked about me being pregnant. He's like, oh, you're pregnant? I'm like, no way. Cannot happen. Like, no way.
His drug game strong.
Like, no way it happened. And then I noticed the boobs and I'm like, I go to the pharmacy and buy a test. And come home, I test. I bought like 3 actually. And I was pregnant. It was positive. I kept looking at it like, no, it's positive. And I tested again for after like 3 hours. I don't know what I was hoping for. And it was positive. And I was like, okay.
So in this moment, what's running through your mind?
Abortion. Yeah, I'm like, wait, if it's there, I'm not keeping it. Like, no way I am keeping it. I am removing it. Like, that was it. My mind was made up of that's it. I'm not keeping this baby.
Where did the courage come from?
So I talked to, before I even told my boyfriend at that time that I was pregnant, I just kept quiet. I went to like a library, bought myself series, like enough, and went home and told myself I'm not thinking about this now. And I decided to watch TV. After like a week, maybe 5 days or something.
Watching TV?
Yeah. Like, I was panicking and I didn't know how to deal with it. I was now thinking about everyone I have to tell if I have to keep the baby. Then I read a lot about abortion and the side effects and what could happen. And if I got pregnant, what will happen? What will I lose? It was a lot of information to process at that time. So I told myself, I'm giving myself a week to think and whatever, then I'll start telling people.
Who was the first person you told? Because this is you, a student, you're now pregnant, you have parents.
I told my twin brother first. Like, hey, I'm pregnant.
Did he first laugh?
He called me immediately and he's like, Micheline, what the fuck? I'm like, I'm not in the mood to fight with anyone. If you've called to fight, bye. And they hang up. And he sent me these messages. What the fuck? How could you? What are you going to tell? Because let me tell you, funny story about being a twin, repercussions come both ways. Yeah. If I do something, my mom won't be like, you did something. It will be you and you, Michelle and Michael. Always, like, growing up, punishments, repercussions, everything came in twos.
It's like he was having a baby himself.
You get the point. Like, he was so mad because, like, oh my God, what have you put me in? Because we knew this is something he would have to face with me of. And the backlash should come through him, everything. So I tell him, he's like, have you told the guy what? I'm like, not yet. So I call the guy, I'm like, hey, I need to talk to you. And he comes over, I'm like, I'm pregnant. And funny story, because I decided I won't keep the baby, I told myself, let me tell this guy, if he acts funny, then like that will be my, because now my options were like 50-50. So I told myself my boyfriend's reaction at the time would be what would seal the baby's fate of whether to keep the baby or to remove the baby. And then I told him, and he was like happy about it, like, oh my God, I'm like,
you're caught off guard.
Yeah, like I was really expecting him to be like, no,
he's skating out.
Yeah. But I was like, I'm like, you know what will happen, like, when we keep this baby, it's not something, like, this is a baby that you don't sail through having a baby, like, it's a whole thing. And he was like, yeah, I'm ready. It's okay. What? I will look after the baby. I will look after you. And a whole of other speeches.
He sold you into keeping the baby.
Yeah.
Would you believe it for the right reasons now?
Yeah. No. Let me tell you. I think that's the best decision I have ever made personally, to have that baby. Like, when you wake up and the first thing you... It's very annoying, by the way, because she wakes me up every time, and if I'm at home, there's no way I can sleep alone, or there's no way she'll sleep with anyone else. She'll sleep with me, and it's annoying when she wakes me up, but it's also like the best thing that happens to me every morning. Go, oh my God, they actually have a little human being. So yeah, it was hard, but it's also the best thing I've done.
So tell us about the pregnancy.
My pregnancy.
Those 9 months of carrying your baby. Parents finding out.
It was bad. I was very terrified to tell my parents myself, so I didn't. I asked my brother to report me. To
report you?
Yes. Like, I told him, you go, and he wasn't reporting me to my parents. That was so wrong. I asked him to report me to my grandmom. Like, you go tell my grandma that I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
So that Gwenga Boche Jemu don't be part of it. And he reported me. And then I told my auntie. And then I just blocked all calls. I was like, it's out there.
Let them first talk about
Let them deal with it whatever way they wish to deal with it. But I will not be part of that dealing. So my brother told my grandmom. I told my auntie, and when they had started calling me, I just blocked calls so they couldn't call me. And then I told them, my phone is spoiled, I can't pick up calls. So if you want to talk to me, text, because it's easier for me. I find it really easy to talk to people through writing. Having normal conversations is very hard for me, especially if it's something heavy to talk about. I always write. So I told them, my phone is spoiled, so I can't pick calls. So if you want to talk to me, send messages. And my grandma was like, I want to meet that man tomorrow. I'm like, okay. I call my boyfriend. I'm like, my grandma wants to meet you. And my and he's like, yes, it's okay. You give her my number. Me, I'm ready to do it. And I'm like, do you want his number? She's like, give me his number now. I have to call him. I'm like, cool. I give her the number.
So they're ready for themselves.
I don't know what happened in the...
Yeah.
Okay, no. Because he went with his best friend or something. And I told my twin brother, because he was also in that meeting. Because my grandmom was like, you can't attend this meeting because I want to talk to the man alone. So I told my brother, record whatever they say, I want to know. And probably he did. But it wasn't bad. They were just telling him repercussions, what would happen when my parents find out what.
So all this happened way before your parents found out?
Yeah. Then my grandmom called my dad, I hear, and told them, Michelle is pregnant. And my parents couldn't call me over. I think it was too much shock for them. Oh no, too much for now.
Yeah.
And then I also kept quiet because I couldn't bring myself to call them. I knew the disappointment was I had already, I kept doing things, getting expelled from school, what. So this was in my head, this was the nail in the coffin of now this is it.
Because from your track record, do you believe your indiscipline growing up as a child, the rebel that you are, eventually caught up with you?
Eventually. It must have been my punishment or something. It had to be. But yeah, I couldn't call my parents. I was so ashamed of I couldn't bring myself to call them. I would get my phone to dial, and I would be like, no.
So for the whole 9 months, you didn't see your parents?
I did. When I was 5 months pregnant or something, I finally called my dad.
Yeah.
And we talked. And he told me how disappointed he is and what, but he had now gotten over it. Like, it was 5 months. He had now made peace with it. I just remember him telling me, I'm just glad you didn't decide to abort the baby. So we move on, like, and I'm like, okay. So like at 7 months, they were like, we need to see the person responsible.
They hadn't yet seen the young gentleman.
It was only my grandmom and my auntie who had seen him. So they're like, we need to see the person responsible for the pregnancy.
Is it the one responsible for it, or both of you are responsible for it?
Well, bagam, such something. Like right now, can I say that baby is mine?
Isn't it?
Well, is, but come on. Like, if something happened right now, who would take her?
Okay.
Like, I can't stand and say my baby's in Fombera. She isn't. So clearly, but yeah, I took him home for them to like see who's responsible. And
you're still together with him?
Yeah, we were still together. And like, first of all, during my pregnancy, I was so depressed and I had anxiety, and not because I lacked or anything, as like that everything as much as I had talked to my parents and like they now knew and what they weren't okay with it, and our relationship had like
taken a toll.
Yeah, then I'd lost friends, like not because they didn't want to talk to me anymore, but I was ashamed, like. How could you
be that girl?
Yeah, I was like really ashamed. I had left school, so I wasn't talking to like you'd call me and I wouldn't pick, because what are we going to talk about? How you went to a bar, as in your school. Realities. Yeah, like we were worlds apart. So I lost friends. I was pregnant, then I was living far, so like if even the few friends that I'd remained with, I wasn't like seeing them or what. Then I dropped out of school, so I would see these status updates of done with papers about the semester, what, and I would be like, oh.
What did I do to myself?
Yeah, regret. Like, it's too much to live with, and this is not something you can keep talking about with other people. Oh, I'm so ashamed, because people would be like, you're ashamed of your baby, but they don't realize that it's not about the baby. It's about other things, your life, what you were doing at the time that you've put a stop to, and all that. So it was hard. Like,
so let's talk about the postpartum depression.
So
this was you looking at your child
after giving birth. Yeah, so
you don't understand what's in front of you.
You're like, what? I really have a kid, like I really have a child. So first of all, that depression that hits you after you give birth, it's the hardest thing to talk about, and it's the hardest thing to notice that you're going through, because one, everyone expects you to be happy. Like, you're supposed to be happy. You have a kid, a healthy kid. You must be happy. But then you're not. And you're like, how do I tell someone that I'm not happy? And then you have this human being that is now relying on you for survival. And you don't want it to rely on you for survival. You like want it taken away. Then you have a kid that's crying 20 hours a day. I'm not kidding. Like, if they are awake, they are crying, and it's like non-stop crying. Of it gets to you at some point. You need it to stop, and it's not stopping. Then you hate yourself. There's a lot of body changes happening to you at that time. Your boobs are hurting. At some point, my daughter refused to breastfeed, and when a baby refuses to breastfeed, it's the worst thing that can happen to your boobs, because you have a lot of milk in your boobs. It needs to get out.
So you had to.
And that thing hurts too.
Like milking yourself.
Yeah. The baby's refusing to breastfeed. You need it to breastfeed so that because that's the only thing that will stop it from crying, but it's refusing. Your boobs are hurting. Your head is hurting because I got a C-section. There's that too, because you have to take care of yourself. You need to heal as well, I have a wound that I don't understand. It was too much.
Basically, your life was not in a good place by the time you gave birth to your daughter.
No. And
But were the people around you happy for you,
they
despite everything?
they were happy, and I didn't understand their happiness of why are you happy. They were happy. The kid, let me tell you, when I was in hospital, I gave birth on Palm Sunday. I gave birth from Musambe Hospital, and it was full of my people. I'm not kidding. It got to a point where the nurses had to take me away, like for people to leave, and they refused. Like, that is how much love I had around me when I was going to give birth. But I wasn't happy, and I couldn't tell people that, listen, as much as you're here for me, as much as you're trying, you guys, it's not working. I'm not okay, and I'm not happy. Because I remember my mom was in Fort Portal at that time. I went to hospital like at 7. We called and we're like, listen, I'm going to hospital. And she got on a bus by like, midday? She was in Musambe Hospital as well. You look at your mom who has done this for you, and you're like, how do I tell her that I'm not happy? Like, for her, this should make you happy. Like, that's a huge
First
sacrifice.
of all, you put yourself into that position.
Exactly. So how do I start telling people, what do you want them to do? And then, omanye wofuna olubuto kati okuze. You're now an adult. Toli mwana anymore. You're now an adult. And me, I love doing things right. And I think a lot of times, it has put me in a bad place because I don't want to ask for help because I want to do it right. I don't want to talk about things because I want to do it right. I want things to go right. So that is why for a long time I was suffering alone, because I had showed people Nkuze, I'm an adult now, I shouldn't be failing at motherhood. And let me tell you, for a good month, I did fail at it. Okay, I wasn't failing. I was sick. I just didn't know what sickness I had. I lost so much weight, and people would look at me and be like, are you sick? And I'd be like, no. Some friends of mine would even ask me, Michi, tell us the truth. Are you happy? And I would be like, yes, I'm perfect. Like, I have a cute baby and I am perfect. I don't need help. And they refused. And then at that point, it got to a point, I think my daughter was like 1. My relationship was failing. I was still dealing. 1 year later, I'm still dealing with that depression, because let me tell you, depression, if you don't face it, if you don't deal with it, if you don't get help, it will not go. You might suppress it for a little bit and you'll be happy for like a month, but it will come back until you're like, okay, let me face this.
I mean, it's a very small comparison in context, but they say postpartum depression is like how an addict feels when they're withdraws, especially class A addicts. So that loss of the child and the bond that inherently is within you for 9 months. So that loss and the fact that your relationship was not working out, was the depression part and parcel?
Yeah.
Because I mean, a depressed person is hard to love.
It is. They are, honestly.
Yeah, because they can't even love themselves.
Yeah.
They can't reciprocate it.
I usually tell people, like, I can't love you if I don't love myself. And that was happening. For me, because there were other things that were also happening in the relationship. It wasn't like because I was depressed or anything, because at some point I was really trying, because I was trying to hide my depression. So I can't even blame okay, we talked about it maybe once or twice, but I wasn't telling him, hey, listen, I'm depressed and I need help. I'd just be like, you're not doing things the way I need them to do. I need them to be done. And half the time, when you're depressed, usually it's very hard for you to look at yourself and be like, maybe I'm the problem, or maybe I am overreacting about certain things, or maybe I need to think about this differently. you'll always try to find the problem in other people.
Yeah.
That
The external surroundings.
yeah, you'll try to look at the maid and be like, you're the problem, or the man, or even the kid in front of you, like, she's the one with a problem. She's not Talia. So if she's not eating, you know what? I don't have energy to start forcing her to eat and stuff. You'll look at everything else and not yourself. So it makes it even harder for you to like seek help or ask for help, because in your mind you don't have a problem. You're okay.
So this is your second bout of depression. The first was in school, where you had the support system, you had the people that would watch for you and whatnot. Now this is you, postpartum depression, support system is crumbling. The man who promised you heaven on earth seems to be doing things the Indian does. Yeah.
Why?
This one. Yeah.
But yeah, it was bad. It was honestly bad. I looked sick like half the time. I'm already small, so if I tell you I lost weight,
Must have been bad.
it was bad. Like, I looked sick. You could look at me and tell, like.
You're no longer the girl they used to hate.
And let me tell you, I am. I'm a happy person. At least I'm a happy person. I'll be dealing with a lot of stuff, and I always tell people I don't like looking like my problems. I'm a happy person, but I wasn't. You could look at me and see the sadness. And even then, I refused. Or I could also I could see it, and look at myself, and I'm like, what happened to me?
Yeah.
And I started watching videos about depression, and I'd be like, this is me.
Hey, you are now related?
Yeah, like, this is what I'm going through. But I still had that denial of no way.
Did you go for counseling?
I have friends
Therapy?
that I talk to.
Yeah, you have friends.
Do you know how expensive therapy is in Uganda?
How expensive? I've been to therapy. It was my playground for a while. Yeah, but that's
No. No way you're running away from that.
Yeah.
It was your playground for a while.
Yes. But therapy.
No,
I've been
don't.
institutionalized. Okay, me on the good side is I've been blessed. My family could afford it. They could afford the specialized help, and of which my problems were a bit different. I will not say bigger than postpartum depression, but they were a bit different.
Yeah, I get that. But
so you confide in friends?
Yeah, and let me tell you, first of all, most of them didn't understand what I'm talking about. Of course, they have terms for it, like locally in return. Now, in return, they call it observable mutire. And that's basically the same thing, but for them, it's an actual sickness. Actually, it's
they even have to give you medicine
and local herbs and stuff, but it's depression, and they don't know that it is. And of course, people would be like, go observe, come tell, talking about me, and
because they could see it.
They could see it, and me, they would ask me, and I'd be like, me? No way.
Then they see the denial as well.
And they would say, and didn't know how to help. And I would really tell them, me, I am Kawa. Are you guys okay with your baby dad? Yes. Like, we are Kawa.
I think because, do you attribute it to that same energy you had growing up, the rebel in the...
Yes.
You need to prove a point.
I needed, like, what I've told you, one of the reasons I've gotten into so much trouble is I needed to prove a point. Like, I needed to prove a point that it's working. Even when I knew it was not working. I needed to show my parents that, you know what?
Mbisobola.
And like when Crown was like 3 months, my parents asked for her, like, Mutowe, give us Crown. We let you heal. And like, and I was like, no. I can manage.
Yet
clearly I couldn't. But that whole, I can do it. I'm going to prove to everyone that I can actually pull this off.
So did you do it?
I did. No, let me tell you, eventually I talked to my best friend and I just told, like, it got to a point where it was too much of, my heart was so heavy. Like, I needed to
you need to let it out.
I went to my best friend and just stopped. I even think I remember telling her, don't talk. Because if you do the whole talking, I'll stop talking. And I don't want to stop talking. Like, I need to take this off my chest. And I just talked and told her, I'm not okay. Like, I've accepted. I need help. Like, if not, because I'd started getting suicidal thoughts. I had, like, I just needed it to stop. You know, like, that pain that doesn't stop. But it's not like, it's not physical pain that, you know, I'll swallow painkillers, Chivewo. It's not a wound that you put a plaster. It's just pain that's unbearable and it's not stopping and you need it to stop. And I'm like, nah, yeah. Like, come on. My parents are good, or they would love to have my daughter. So it's not like I'll leave her alone. She has people, you know. We could end this and I would be peaceful. My daughter would be happy. She would never know. She's very young. She won't miss me. I've already not been mothering her enough. I had literally left the role to the maid of.
So the postpartum depression led you to suicidal thoughts?
Yeah, it did. But when I talked to my sister, my best friend, but I call her my sister, and we were like, you know what, you need a break from motherhood, you need to heal from everything. And at that point, I'd also broken up with my baby daddy, so it was just, there was a lot going on at the same time. Currently, nothing was stopping, or nothing was happening.
The breakup, because, I mean, this is ideally someone who promised to be with you through thick and thin. The decision to have the baby was more or less handed over to him. And this is you going through the worst phase of your life, and he decides to walk away. How did this affect you?
No, actually, him working, I don't want to say he's a bad person, he's not. But we got to a point where being with him wasn't helping me, like, wasn't good for me. I was already in a terrible mental place. So even being with him wasn't helping take me out. I just needed that to, I told myself I need to start taking away things that are not helping me heal.
Would you call it a toxic relationship?
It wasn't toxic.
I mean, when you look up and look to the skies, it means you're thinking about it.
I'm thinking we were toxic for each other. He wasn't just, I can't say, oh, me, I was good, what? But no, I don't think we were a good fit.
So I don't even need to ask why you broke up. You're just toxic.
We were just not good for each other. Like, we needed to put a stop to it. We are good people separately. Yeah, we are good people separately.
From your history, you seem to have had toxic traits.
Yeah.
As a young toxic girl who, I mean, this is your 19-year-old.
Oh, let's be very clear. I am not toxic.
With a 27-year-old lad. I mean, you're in the entertainment industry already. You're enjoying the high life. The rebellion catches up with you.
We were toxic for each other. We weren't good for each other.
So your best friend in particular was the number one support system for you?
Yeah, she was very supportive. I even remember we had to move in together because she needed to keep an eye on me up close, because I wasn't eating at all. I already have a bad appetite naturally. Now with the whole depression thing, I wasn't eating. Or I would go 2 days without eating, and no, I wouldn't be hungry. I would just get out of my bedroom and ask the maid, has Crown eaten? Yes, and I just go back. I would wake up. Now, at that point, I had gone back to school. I'd gotten a scholarship. I would wake up and go to school. My school would end at 12:30. Immediately after school, I would just get out of class and go home. Ask the maid, has Crown eaten? Whether she has eaten or not. Half the time I wouldn't try to ask. I'll just enter my bedroom and lock it and tell them no one should disturb me. And that was it. And it was really bad for my daughter because I was really not taking care of her, as I was around, but I wasn't. I wasn't giving her attention. I wasn't minding, has she drunk, has she eaten, has she showered? I wasn't. I just left that to the maid. So when I moved in with my best friend, she's like, you know what, we need to get to a point where we acknowledge you've not failed, but you need a break to reboot. You need to rethink I used to have, as stubborn as I was, I knew what I wanted. I knew what I wanted to study. I knew what I wanted to achieve. I knew what I wanted to do. I had things in mind, and I had given up on all of them. I didn't want to know. So she's like, you know what? You used to be different. You knew what you wanted, and you'd always go for it. You know what you wanted to achieve. You were working towards it. But at this point, you're not. So we need to figure out a way for you to come back. And you having Crown does not help. Yeah. So we need to, for starters, we need to send Crown away. And I'm like,
send the baby. I fought so hard to bring it as well.
She's like, it's hard. It's very hard, by the way, to
accept that reality.
Yeah, because for me it didn't look like I needed a break. For me it was, you failed, Micheline. Like waliweka zambo bisobola bigangi, and it got to a point where I couldn't hide it anymore. As already looking like it, the depression was literally written on my face. Then my daughter had lost weight. She was literally looking malnourished because nalisifayo over day, as long as the maid says, hey, she ate. We stop there. No follow-ups, no what.
So it's at this point that you decide to hand over.
Okay, I do need the help. But there's acknowledging that you need the help, and then there's accepting the help. Like those are two very different things. So I remember I text my mom. Meanwhile, as I'm talking to my parents, because every time I would talk to them, they would confront me about what's happening. And if you're not in a good place, if you're deep, you don't want people to ask you those. If they ask you those things, you feel offended.
And your first instinct
your first instinct is, you know what, muvide, temuchi susa, get out of the way. So I had cut them off because every time they would ask me, they would force me to actually think about what's happening in my life. And this is not something I need to think about. I had chosen, lock it up and pretend like your world is not burning. And she's like, you need to take Crown to Fort Portal. Your parent, and she used to use this line of, your parents are alive, your mother is alive. And I'm looking at her you're not making sense. I'm not letting my kid go to Fort Portal. That's not happening. And she's like, Micheline, you need to heal. You can't take care of another human being. To look after yourself. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I can still do this. Now I know I need the help, but I don't want it yet. I feel like I can push myself a little bit more. And I still failed. So one night, I text my mom and I tell her, Mommy, I need to bring Crown to Fort Portal. And I still didn't tell her why or what made me decide, or I just told her school. Actually, I think I told her about the maid left or something in that line of I don't have a maid and I have school and I have work and
I have a lot going on.
I have a lot going on. Can I bring Crown? And she was happy. For them, I think the whole time
They had let it go?
they had, because I had really refused to give them the key.
Because how did you handle, I'm guessing from the first time you broke the news to them, their disappointment, the family backlash, how did you juggle?
Let me tell you, I am the queen of blocking things out. Eventually, I fail, of course, but
You did a good
I
job.
just blocked it out. I came back somehow. I ignored it. So I'd call once in 2 months and be like, "Hi, Daddy, are you okay?"
So this whole time, the father of the child is footing the bills?
Yeah. Of course, when we had just broken up, there were misunderstandings. Co-parenting is very difficult. There's it's very difficult. There's no manual, there's no guideline, there's no book about how you can handle co-parenting. It's very hard. That's it's difficult to deal with, and the funny bit is both of you won't accept that you're in wrong. It's very hard to ask my baby dad and it's at this point as in wrong, or me personally, because you both feel like you're doing the right thing, and maybe most of the times you're both trying to do the right thing by your kid, but you're now, when you're together, it's easier to sit and talk about what's right for your kid. When you're not,
After
not,
promises and whatnot, and
let me tell you, when you're not with your baby daddy or everything they're trying to do, you feel like it's you feel
because they can actually be malicious.
They can. It's very true, but
And their malice hurts the most, I think.
It does. But then you're also just biased. So you feel like whatever they're trying to say is probably wrong, or they're trying to hurt you. Or usually with your baby daddy or baby mama, you're trying to be on the defensive side.
Yeah.
So it does, as much as they're trying to bring a good suggestion, you'll try to overthink it of what
angle is it?
What how does he want to hurt me now, or how does she want to hurt me now? So it's very hard. By the time you get to a middle ground for your co-parenting, you have gone through a series and a series of fights.
It's an egotistic.
Yes. And you both have an ego of, I know what's better for my kid, and he's also thinking, I know what's good for my kid. So it's hard to win that battle. Half the time you'll have to bring third parties and fourth parties. There are times where people that are trying to listen to you both are like, you know what? Then I'm out. And when you half the time when you think about these battles later, you're like, why were we fighting again? It doesn't make sense.
So,
but
given the fact that you're both toxic for yourselves, do you believe your age came into play? Because we're talking about teenage pregnancy.
It did. A lot.
I believe some of the decisions we make when we're young, because I think you were going through adolescence and you didn't even notice.
It did a lot, greatly. Because let me tell you, when you're 20, as much as you're an adult now, your thinking is not adult enough. You're an adult enough for going out, school. You're not big enough for decisions like family, marriage, pregnancy, motherhood. You're not adult enough for I'm not saying it's a burden, but it is it's responsibility you're not ready for. And even if you're in a relationship, you're ready for that relationship where you go to Javas and have lunch and go back to hostel. You're ready for that relationship where you might have sex, yeah, but you're ready for that relationship of walk around campus holding hands and all that. You're not ready for a relationship where you're now a wife. You're 20 years old. You're not ready to be someone's wife. You're not ready to have conversations about family or how many kids you want. For you, before you even have the conversation about how many kids you want, you're pregnant. Before you have conversations about where you want your home and all that, you're married. It's responsibility you're not ready for. And the older you grow, that's when you now start thinking about these things. Like, hold on, Bazi, how many kids do you want? Boy, I want 6, and you're like, I want 6 kids, but I want 2. And then you're like, Bazi, where do you want to live? And someone is like, I want to live in Nansana. And you're like, but hold on, me, I want to live in Nigeria. You get, like, you realize, as much as you like each other, there's, love, relationships and all that go beyond just you two loving each other. There are some sacrifices that you can make, and there's a limit to those sacrifices too. There's you might give up some things but there's also a limit to how much you can compromise. You get my point? So it gets to a point where you may not even be toxic for each other, but you're just not compatible. There's a limit to how far the compromising can go. And those are things that we had never talked about. You realize when you're 20, it's easy for you to be like, you know what, I'll give up law school and,
Just find something else.
And then you're 23 now and you're like, but hold on. I'm not sure I want to give up law school. Or it's easy for you to be like, you know what, I'll even leave the country and then now you're 24 and you're like,
which country did he promise to take me to?
It's not even he didn't promise to take me to any country. I'm just saying it's easy when you're 20 and you're in love. There's a lot of things that you can feel like you can give up or you can compromise on or you can change in the moment. But the older you grow, the more you realize maybe I pushed it a little bit too far. Maybe I'm not ready to give up this.
Where do you think, from your story, where do you think we have gone wrong as a people? Especially the youth.
The youth, we don't talk. Like, I'm glad maybe 3 years ago, people weren't talking about depression and postmortem depression and anxiety or PTSD. 3 years ago, people weren't talking about those things. But now you scroll through Twitter and you'll see like 2 or 3 people admitting that, you know what, I'm not okay, like I'm going through this. And people will reach out, and I gave myself that job to always talk about how depressed I used to be. I remember there's a time I talked about postmortem depression on Twitter, and I had people texting me about it, like very many. It was so weird. Old people that are like 28, 30, and they're telling me, hold on, what were you talking about? Is that what you were talking about? I have kids that are like 22 that text me now and be like, hey, so I need your help. I am pregnant. What? I have people that will text me and be like, I'm going through this and this, and I'll try and be there for them whichever way I can. But I'm glad that now we talk about it more. We acknowledge the presence of depression and these other things more. And I don't know how we will even achieve this, but if there was a way older people could be taught more about depression, because recently I was having lunch with some family members and we started talking about depression and stuff. And one of my uncles was like, Depression and stress. You people overuse those words. And I told him, listen, even Crown can be stressed. And she's 3. The difference is what we are getting stressed about.
Yeah.
Crown will ask for cartoons. And I'll say no. And she'll be stressed for like 2 minutes of mommy has refused to give me cartoons and even throw a tantrum. But she's stressed for those 2 minutes. And then me, I'll be having a whole pile of bills and I'll probably be stressed for a week. And then we were talking about relationships and how people even commit suicide. And he's like, oh my God, how can you commit suicide because of a relationship? And I told him, you see, you need to understand tolerance. I can slap you and it will be okay. Like, you'll let it slide. You won't even feel the slap. But I'll slap Mark the same exact way and he'll feel the pain. Yeah. It's not that I slapped him differently. Tolerance. We all tolerate things. We have levels of tolerance that are different. And for him, he was like, what?
It was foreign to him.
Yeah, like, what? How can you be depressed? And I'm like, you can. Even kids can be depressed. Even you might be going through depression. Ngatomani what's happening. Just that kumacha when you wake up, you don't want to get out of bed. You feel sad for no reason. And you don't know what's happening. But that right there, that's it. That's what you're dealing with. Ngatomani. So I wish people could be like educated more and stuff.
Well, thank you for coming and sharing your message with us.
Thank you for having me.
So as we round up, few words of advice to the masses out there, those that are engaging in live sex.
Please swallow morning after pills.
I think the list is morning after pills. What else?
No, just don't have unprotected sex.
Please stop having unprotected sex on the streets.
Yeah.
The boy child.
Stop having. Having unprotected sex goes both ways.
Yeah,
so it shouldn't be.
Sometimes.
Wear a condom for crying out loud. Don't go getting people pregnant.
Stop giving people babies that they haven't planned for.
Right. And talk. Please talk. It doesn't matter how you're feeling. Talk to someone. Don't feel like it's small and you can manage it, because the more you feel like you can manage it, somehow the more it grows, and before you know it, it's unmanageable. So please talk to someone, confide in someone. Don't feel ashamed. You're not weak. You're sick and you need help. So that's it.
The sick ones are the ones that have depression, not the ones that get bad.
No. If you feel depressed, if you feel unhappy for no reason, if you wake up and you don't feel motivated to get out of bed, please talk to someone. Write about it. If you feel like you can't talk about it, write. Confide. It's the best medicine for depression, by the way. Talking. You might swallow the medicine for it, but the best, cheapest.
Couch therapy. The ones your friends give you.
Those ones, yeah.
So thank you very much for coming and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
The rest of you, please check on your mental health, check on your loved ones, and let's widen the discussion. Thank you.
It numbs you, a nightmare, a horrible disease. These are just a few of the ways people have described mental illness in their lives. Whether it's you, your child, or a friend, mental illness impacts all of us in the same ways, and that's why the Mind Space podcast is committed to uncovering mental illness and the impact it has.